So global tax system, basically the world needs taxes, because if we want to redistribute wealth, we need to make sure that people who make a lot of money contribute to the society that they live in, and for that we use taxes, so that the people who miss out, the people who fall off the train, they can get back up, and tax is necessary for that. But these days, the global tax system allows multinationals to reduce their tax burden considerably. We have been looking at Amazon, we have been looking at Facebook, we have been looking at Starbucks, and where an average American company needs to pay about 35% in income tax, Facebook only pays 1.6%. Starbucks also pays less than 2% in income tax, because they use all kinds of tax havens and tax constructions that allow them to reduce their profit. Like Amazon famously always reports zero profit or a loss. They always report a loss. Why do they do that? Because if you report a loss, you don't have to pay income tax. But actually, they use kind of like tax constructions. It's not illegal. It's not tax evasion. It's tax. What do you say? How to say that? Tax evasion, and you have tax reduction, or tax neutral. Yeah. So tax neutral. That means that basically they don't pay taxes. They use shell companies in the Bahamas, in the Netherlands, in other countries. And by doing that, by letting income going through these companies, and it just needs to go through the bank, right? This is a matter of seconds. Money is being made in Germany, then it's being sent to the Netherlands, and it just touches the bank long enough, maybe 1 second, and then it goes on to the Cayman Islands. And by doing that, they can reduce their tax to almost zero. But regular people don't have that advantage. If we look at Mark Zuckerberg, is one of the richest people in the world, he hardly pays any taxes. While we, the consumers, we pay 35%. That's not really fair. Another thing that we saw, how the system is rigged, is the money deluge. What we see is that actually a lot of governments, a lot of people are overspending. We saw Europe getting in trouble, Greece, the Greek economic crisis. And in response to that, mass debt has been occurred. Now, in order to pay for that debt, the central bank started to increase their debt. But in order to keep that affordable, they can't really have high interest rates. So what they did is that they increased the money amount and they reduced the interest rate. By doing that, the people who have savings all of a sudden don't have any benefit from their savings anymore. They're not making any money over their savings anymore. So what you see in Europe is that a lot of people who are retiring, who thought they could live off their savings, all of a sudden don't have any revenue from those savings anymore. So that is also something that, okay, that is completely out of their sphere of influence, but people who have lots of money, who have access to money, can easily get it, invest it, and the worst thing that can happen is that they can lose that money and go bankrupt, but far more often they actually can make money out of throwing around large sums of money, while regular people with a pension, they can no longer make ends meet. And then what we see is that actually there has been a trend. It used to be like this. Companies, like for example, take Ford in the United States, or Chrysler in the United States, or any kind of company. They used to have a factory, and in that factory people were working, and they were making cars, and if the cars would sell well, they would make a profit, and that profit was normally shared with the workers, because the factory owners need the workers in order to make those cars. And in combination with the fact that we still had a lot of labor unions, this led to the profit being shared between the capital owners and the workers. And people, the owners of the factory would try to make the workers commit to them so that they could keep on producing cars. But what changed is that actually through globalization, all of a sudden workers were no longer scarce anymore, because if the workers in the United States would be too expensive to produce cars for Chrysler, they would just build up a factory in Mexico, and people would be happily working for Chrysler in Mexico for 1/3 of the wages that they need to pay in the United States. So that completely undermined the position of the workers in the United States. And then the trend of shareholder value. So a lot of companies started to focus exclusively on shareholder profit maximization. So shareholders are the people who put the capital in there. They're not the workers. The relation between the company and the workers was loosened. They didn't need to increase their wages. Even worse, they actually started to outsource their production to Mexico, and a lot of people lost their jobs. So, in order to make the shareholders benefit maximal, they started to globalize, and they started to give like stock buybacks to constantly inflate stock prices, because that would benefit the shareholders as well. So it is actually like in the days of Karl Marx, who wrote about in Das Kapital about the favorable position of the people who were providing the capital in manufacturing. Those days have more or less returned. Today, the workers no longer have the power. It's the people who buy the stocks, who provide the loans, who have the power, and that's a much smaller group than all the workers.
Last week I told you recently, American large companies, they changed the policy, focus on stockholders.
Yeah.
Instead, they are more emphasized moving on workers. Emphasize on workers.
It's the same is true in the Netherlands, but it's only a few companies. There are not many companies who are doing that.
New trend.
It is a new trend. The CEO of the year last year in the Netherlands was the CEO of DSM, which is a chemical company, and he famously always claims that, if you want shareholder maximization, don't give me that job, because I'm not only focusing on shareholders, I'm also focusing on the workers. I'm trying to look at the long-term perspective, not only the short-term perspective, but the longer-term perspective.
Exactly, that's right. So not only United States but also Europe, they need more considering for middle-income people. How to save those laborers. So big companies, some of those they are much more focused on those people, how to save them, give them training, try to make investment for their workers. So the workers is not short range. They need to consider for more than 10 years instead of short-term profit chasing for stockholders. So this is going to be much more company. They're going to focus on kind of tendencies in the future.
But it's difficult, because capital is fluid, and capital will flow to wherever it can, because it doesn't really matter if I'm here and if I have money, I can invest it in any company in the world. Basically, our financial system allows that. So if I can find a company that is completely focused on shareholder maximization, value maximization, then and I can choose between a company that is saying, I'm giving equally to the workers, I might be tempted to say, well, I'm going to go with shareholder maximization. And that means I will have a hard time to grow, because for growth you need investment, and investment requires capital. Therefore, it might be difficult for companies who do not participate in the rat race regarding profit maximization and shareholder value maximization.